Hi, everyone. You are watching the Zenith Glow Astrology YouTube channel. My name is Christina. I'm an astrologer, and I'm the one running this whole thing, this channel, this show, what you're about to watch. Thanks for tuning in. Happy to have you here. Thanks for watching. Uh, Today, we are talking about the upcoming full moon, and yeah, that's really about it. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So we have a full moon on June 11th. This is a strawberry moon because this is the time of year when strawberries are ripe for harvest, and so it's become associated with that. And this full moon is going to be exact at 3:43 a.m. That's Eastern Daylight Time, and it's going to be at 20 degrees 38 minutes of Sagittarius. So it is a Sagittarius full moon. There's a few things going on with this full moon that are really powerful, and we're going to look at those things. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry, guys. I was just outside playing with my dogs, and I'm all sweaty, and I feel like my brain got overheated. So this will be fun. At the very least, this will be entertaining for you. So, yeah, one of the interesting things about this full moon is that it's in Sagittarius and that Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. I just did a video on Jupiter. Please go watch it because I had a lot of fun making it. And it will give you more information on Jupiter moving into Cancer and what that means for that whole cycle, which will be going on for an entire year. And that cycle actually begins 2 days before this new moon. So the ruler of, did I just say new moon? Full moon. So the ruler of this full moon is changing signs 2 days before the full moon. That energy is most definitely getting funneled into this event. It's a highly significant thing. So even though this is Sagittarius energy, there's a lot of Cancerian flavor going into it. And yeah, let's just go ahead and pull up the chart because I made a chart for this. Let's see. Here we go. There it is. Voila. So here's the chart for the full moon in Sagittarius on June 11th. This is pretty significant, as I was saying, because we have Jupiter in Cancer 2 days prior to the full moon, and then Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so therefore Jupiter is ruling this full moon. So that energy of Jupiter moving into Cancer gets funneled into the energy of the full moon. At the same time, Jupiter is going to be conjunct with Mercury. Now, this is significant not only because Jupiter just left Mercury's sign of Gemini, but because full moons mean that the sun and the moon are in opposition to each other, which means that the sun is in the sign of Gemini at the time of this full moon, opposing the moon, and it is ruled by Mercury. So we also have a lot of Mercury energy going into this full moon. Yet Jupiter is the heavy hitter in this aspect, and so Jupiter is also influencing Mercury, so therefore Jupiter is ruling the whole dang thing. And that's a great thing because we like Jupiter. Jupiter is, a joyful planet. It's a jovial planet. Again, talked about this in that Jupiter in Cancer video. Go watch it, please. Go watch it. But it is, you know, bringing a lot of those good Jupiter vibes to this event. And Jupiter is very much at home in the sign of Cancer because it is exalted in the sign of Cancer. So let's just say good vibes. Good vibes are going on at the time of this full moon. Even though full moons can be emotional and they can stir things up in us, and we might be feeling some of that because there are some other interesting aspects going on at this time. So, speaking of, I want you to look at this chart, and there's quite a few lines going on there, but one of the most significant things happening at this time, apart from, Jupiter conjunct Mercury and then Jupiter ruling the full moon, is we actually have a kite aspect pattern happening. Now, this is involving the sun and the moon being opposite of each other, and then the moon being involved in a grand fire trine with Chiron in Aries and Mars in Leo. And then Chiron and Mars are both forming a sextile to the sun. So within the aspect pattern of a kite, we have an apex planet, and that is the planet that is sort of igniting the energy of the aspect pattern. And in our case, that would be the sun. It is the planet that is sort of bringing some tension to that grand trine. Because, a grand trine is going to be very flowy, happy kind of energy. Like all these planets are understanding each other. They're all vibing together. They get it, right? They're all speaking the same language. So the sun brings in a little bit of tension because it's in opposition to the moon. And then it's forming sextiles to the other two planets. So, and this is true of any kite aspect pattern, but these are the particular planets and signs in our case for this full moon event. And so the sun actually plays a very important role at the time of this full moon. So, what does all of that mean? Okay, we've got like all of the astrological mumbo jumbo specifics going on, right? But what does that translate into when we talk about our experience? What we have, so when you consider the fact that we've been having a lot of solar flares lately, right? Have you been feeling them? I've been feeling them. There's been a lot of intense energy lately, a lot of solar flares. Schumann resonance has been going crazy. This is the last full moon of our spring season before we enter the summer season here in the northern hemisphere. We are about to have the summer solstice, which is also another energy spike point, we could say. And that's coming very soon after this full moon. So Jupiter changing signs, we're still dealing with the aftermath of Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries. I also want to add that this sun and moon configuration is squaring the nodal axis at this time as well. So we have some tension coming in from that. What we have going on here is like a crescendo of energy. It is the end of a cycle because it's the final full moon in our spring season, right? So we have the culmination, the magnum opus of what we have been working on throughout this entire season. And this is, very clear by looking at this aspect pattern, this kite aspect pattern, which brings in flavors of destiny, flavors of life purpose. Okay. And that is shown most clearly by the apex planet, which in our case is the sun. Okay. And then we've got all these solar flares going on as well, with the literal like sun creating activations, right? Solar flares are well known to have an effect on our DNA. And that is very much what we are seeing at the time of the full moon. We have DNA activation happening, right? We have this magnum opus going on with everything that we've been working on this past spring season. It's all kind of coming to a head. And we've very much been brought into this energy of focusing on the process. So it's kind of an interesting mix of things if you think about it, because, yes, we have this culminating energy. We have this crescendo, this final phase of something. But at the same time, we've been continually drawn into the present moment, into the process of everything. And we're still in that energy at this time. It's not that we are focusing completely on the end product, putting it on the shelf, and then moving on. We're still very much working within the parameters of process, which is to be present. Because the truth of it is that nothing exists outside of the present moment. Everything that seems to be outside the present moment is just an illusion. And the present moment is where we create our future from, right? Our future, which doesn't really exist because the future is an illusion, because there's only the present moment. But that is where our creativity lies, okay? And that's one of the beautiful things coming through this full moon, right? Because we have a grand fire trine, and it also involves Chiron and Mars in addition to the moon. So there are things in our unconscious, right? And you know what? Sorry, I just want to add too, we could also say that Jupiter and the moon are in mutual reception at this time. What does that mean? It means when the ruler of one planet one planet, when the planetary ruler of one sign is in the sign of another planet's domain and vice versa. So in other words, let me put that in a way that is not completely convoluted. The moon rules Cancer, and Jupiter is currently in Cancer at the time of this full moon. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and the moon is in the sign of Sagittarius. Okay, so these two planets are very much getting along. They are speaking each other's language. They are vibing. Okay, there's a lot of mutual agreement happening with these two planets right now. So we have all of this. And again, if you watch my video on Jupiter and Cancer, go watch it. Go watch it. Just because I don't want to reiterate everything that I said in there. And there was a lot that I said in there that is actually very exciting about Jupiter's transit through Cancer. And we're starting to see some of those little gems appear with this lunar event. One of the things I talked about in that video is sort of discovering, with Jupiter in Cancer, discovering the inherent blessings and gifts and treasures that we hold within our shadow selves. Because there is this misconception that the shadow is all repressed negativity, that it's all things about ourselves that we feel ashamed of and that we're feeling guilty about and that we don't like and that we want to push down. And that's true. But there is also this other component of the shadow, which is stuff that exists within us, that is a part of us, that we just haven't seen yet. We haven't acknowledged it yet. We haven't recognized it for what it is. And those things are gifts, they're talents, they're pieces of our soul's identity that we have yet to fully integrate on a conscious level, which means it's basically untapped potential within ourselves. Okay. Now, Sagittarius is the planet. Oh my gosh, you guys. It's the planet. It's the sign of expansion, right? It is the sign of exploration. It is about belief and it is about intuition. Okay. All the fire signs, Aries, Sagittarius, Leo, by their nature, by their element, relate to spirit. Okay. They relate to our connection to source, to the everlasting creation that gives us the ability to live, to it's the spark of life. It is the fire within us, right? Out of all of the elements, the fire signs are the ones who innately understand their right and their purpose to exist just by existing itself. I just am. I am. That is the energy of the fire signs, right? Whereas the other elements have other activities that sort of inspire that innate drive and that sense of purpose, right? Emotions and ideas and communication and physical manifestation and grounding and security and things like that. But the fire signs are like, hey, I have a right to this because I am, because I exist, right? So they are very much connected to this this creative, what would we call that? I'm struggling to describe it because it transcends language. It transcends language. It's not something you can actually put into words. It's something that you feel. But I'm talking about the creative undercurrent that ignites all of reality. Okay. Fire is tapped into that undercurrent, right? It's what drives fire. And Sagittarius is all about expanding in that truth and moving within the wisdom, the inherent intuition of that existence, of that underlying connection between all things. All right. Whew, heavy stuff. No wonder I'm having trouble describing it. So, we've got this grand fire trine going on. Chiron is the wounded healer. He's also the master teacher. He's the teacher of heroes, right? And we have Mars in Leo. Mars is comfortable in Leo, right? Because Mars rules Aries and, it's at home being in this fire sign. So we have this really beautiful flow of energy, but as you will know if you've studied astrology, grand trines show talent and they show potential, but they can be tricky because the energy is flowing so smoothly. It's almost like there's no motivation to do anything with it. And that's where this kite configuration becomes incredibly beneficial, because having the sun opposite of the moon creates a little bit of tension. It creates that apex point. So suddenly we're feeling a little uncomfortable. We're being motivated to do something with all this energy. Okay. And the sun literally is illumination. And then when we look at it from a different perspective, we're having all of these solar flares, which are literally activating our DNA. And then you bring Jupiter into the mix, and Jupiter's ruling the whole damn thing. And Jupiter is conjunct with Mercury, and that's our conscious mind. And Mercury is ruling the sun. And so what we have going on is this kind of illumination that is coming to us through this event. That is why it is the magnum opus, because it is the culminating cherry on top of a spring season of deep inner work and process that ends with this beautiful ignition within us, this recognition. What is my purpose? What am I here to do? Who am I really? How am I embodying who I truly am? Who am I truly? Jupiter's going to show us the treasure, the buried treasure that's within, right? We're going to have a conscious confrontation with our untapped potential. And full moons represent times of culmination just in general. And then again, you throw on that extra layer of this being the end of the spring cycle of things, right? So we have a cycle on top of a cycle of culmination, of harvest, of fullness and realization. It's incredibly powerful. And this is all happening, prior to the summer solstice. And just after Jupiter changes signs and moves into the sign of its exaltation. So this is very powerful energy. So, what the heck do we all do with this? Thanks, Christina. You're getting real excited, and I can see that you're real excited about this. But what the heck do I do with all this? Tap into it. Be conscious of it. Attune to the energy. Realize that it's happening. Also realize there's not really much you can do. Because this is all just happening, right? We can consciously attune. We can try to tap in. We can try to harness the energy. We can do little rituals. And by the way, by all means, do rituals, seize the opportunity to get into that energy. But also don't stress about it, and just know that the car is kind of driving itself at this point. The DNA activations are happening with these solar flares. Those DNA activations are igniting memory codes. The memory codes are tapped into these shadowy aspects that we hold within us that are the potential within us, the gifts that we carry forward from past lives, from earlier in this life. Maybe we shut things down for one reason or another. Maybe there are gifts and talents that we hold that we just haven't really been utilizing. Whatever it is, whatever's hidden in the shadows is coming to light with this full moon. And normally when I say that kind of thing, it's kind of scary. I love to scare you guys. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to ever scare you, but it's, it's usually got kind of a more negative connotation, like, okay, let's do the shadow work and let's get in there and we're going to look at the bad stuff. Here we go again. Let's grimace through it. It's not like that at this time. That's not to say that there isn't catalytic energy. Again, we have that square with the nodal axis, which, by the way, bringing us into communion with our life purpose, helping us to recognize, what am I meant to do? What is the pinnacle of my expression? How can I harness that expression in the highest potential possible? Beautiful, but also a little bit challenging because we're talking about a square energy, right? We've also got Saturn and Neptune recently moved into Aries. And then we've also got Uranus getting into the tippy tip point of Taurus, getting ready to change signs. It's going to move into Gemini for its first turn through that sign in July. So there's definitely tension coming through the outer planets. But that kind of stuff happens a little bit more under the radar until it hits something exact, until, Uranus actually moves into Gemini, or if you have something in your own chart that those planets are pinging off of, then you'll feel that a little bit more acutely. Otherwise, it's more of a slow burn in the background. And this other stuff is what's coming to the surface right now. So just know that this is a beautiful time of harvest. And I guess just enjoy it, folks. Like, sink into the energy, Go eat some strawberries. It's a strawberry full moon. you know? Go do something that you love to do. Uh, Go explore something new. Go learn something new. You're going to be learning something new about yourself for sure. There's going to be something revealed about you that's going to help you connect with, gosh, what am I meant to do with myself? And if you feel like you've already been doing stuff on your path that's more in alignment with who you are and what your purpose is, you might get something new that you hadn't even thought about. So I guess be open to these things, be tapped in. Listen deeply. That's Cancer energy. Listen deeply to yourself. Pay attention to your higher guidance system, and however that speaks to you, it's going to be different for all of us. But just tap in and then let yourself receive. Okay? This is that feminine lunar energy. Open up and receive, and let yourself be given what you are gifted with at this time, because it is a gift. This is a huge gift, and it's going to be beautiful energy. So let's see. Did I forget anything? Nope. I think I got it all. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for hanging out with me and for putting up with my weird frenetic energy. This is what I'm like when I take my dogs out. I come back in and it's like I'm part dog. I'm still excited. I'm like, yeah, are we chasing the ball still? No? Okay. No, I got to sit down and be a human and talk about this stuff. Okay. Uh, just a reminder, folks, I am running a special through the end of June. If you use the code June25 when you're scheduling an appointment with me, you can get 25% off of your reading. I'll post that in the description below. Thank you so much for supporting me. I love you all. I appreciate you. And I hope that you all have a fantastic strawberry moon. Okay? I will catch you next time. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Bye.